Alright, so we're gonna start with your guys' Halloween special. I got hired a cameraman for you guys, so you guys better appreciate this work. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at equations. So the first equation I wanna look at is something familiar. So we have x plus 5 equals 10. So we already talked about how we want to get x by itself. So the whole theme of this week is getting the letter by itself. So remember, when I have an equation sign, that's saying I'm separating these two sides here. So my objective, my goal, is to get this x by itself. So we already learned that. We said, okay, how are we going to get x by itself? We're going to look at what's happening to x, and we're going to do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 5, well, we're going to subtract 5 from each side. And that's basically what we've been doing this past week. So these cancel, and you get x equals 5. So, and of course we're going to check that. So that's where we came from. Now let's see where we're going to go. So the only thing we're going to do now is we're going to add something a little bit harder. So let's check out what we're going to be presented with. So here I'll have 2x minus 4 equals 6. So now if you notice, I have a multiplication going on and a subtraction. So let's figure out what we're going to do here. So again, what I want to do is I want to make sure I put a visible line down my equal sign, because that's going to tell me what I'm working with here. Okay, so notice I want you guys to identify your letter. So our variable, right? So there's our x. So what we want to do here is make sure we work with whatever is farthest away from our letter. So what's farthest away from our letter? Good, the -4. So we want to first get rid of this guy. So whatever is the farthest away, that's what we're going to work with. So let's put a little note. Work with the number farthest, I should say furthest, no, furthest from our variable. So work with the number furthest from our variable. So in this case, it was the -4. So what's the opposite of subtracting 4? Good, adding 4. So I'll add 4 to this side, I'll add 4 to this side. So notice, I'm only adding 4 to both sides of my equal sign. What I do to the left side, I do to the right side. So here, I'll end up with 10. And here, this -4 and +4 are going to cancel. And it's going to leave us with 2x. So notice, I'm just copying my equal sign on down here. So now, I'm left with something a little easier. I have 2x equals 10. But remember, what does this 2x mean? It means 2 times x. So this is really 2 times x. So what's the opposite of multiplying by x? Excuse me, multiplying by 2? Good. Dividing by 2. So why do I want to divide by 2? Again, I want the x by itself. So here, these cancel, and it leaves me with x or 1x. It doesn't matter what you have. So if you want 1x, that's fine. Or if you just want to put x, that's also fine. What are we going to drop down? Good. Our equal sign. And now we go ahead and divide it. 10 divided by 2. 5, right? So we end up with x equals 5. Now let's figure out how we're going to check our answer. So let's go ahead over here. And let's see, how do we check? So we start with our original equation. So start with original equation. Alright, to continue with this lesson, please deposit your $5 now. Alright, good, let's go. So we have our original equation, 2x minus 4 equals 6. Alright, so we said, what are we going to put in for our 6? Excuse me, what are we going to put in for our x? Whatever our answer was, right? Our solution. So wherever I see my variable, that's where I'm going to plug in my letter. So I got 2 times something minus 4 equals 6. So what's my something? Well, we found it to be 5. So we'll plug in our 5 there. So we get 2 times 5. 10 minus 4 equals 6. So 10 minus 4, 6 equals 6. Came out true. So cool. That worked out. So there's our first example here. So let's move on and let's kick it up a notch. Let's change things again a little bit. What if we now have a fraction plus 4 equals 10. Alright, so I know a lot of you probably see a fraction and you're tripping out right now. There's no need of fear. Johnny's here. Alright, so what we got our invisible line again, right? Yeah. So there's our invisible line. So we start with what we did last time. What's furthest away from our x, but it's still on the same side of our equal sign? So I know probably some of you are thinking, wait, why aren't we working with the 10? Because that's furthest away from the x. But when I say furthest away from the x, I'm talking about something that's furthest away from the x, but on the same side of our invisible line here. So that's what I'm talking about, everything to the left over here. Or maybe it's your right, depending on which part of the country you're viewing this from. But what we're going to do is, we need to get rid of this positive 4, right? So we do the opposite, plus 4, minus 4. So we do minus 4 here. Alright, so what happens to these two? Man, they cancel out, right? So plus 4 and minus 4, they cancel out. So what are we left with on the left hand side? Just this guy. 1/2 x equals 6. Alright, so now what do we do? Well, when I have a fraction here, remember, what I want to do is we have 1/2 times x. So I want x to be by itself. So what's the opposite of, what's the reciprocal of 1 over 2? And just to remind you, the reciprocal just means we flip the numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by the flip of whatever this was. So the flip of 1/2 is 2 over 1. So that's what I'm also going to multiply this by. 2 over 1. So here we can see this 1 and this 1 cancel, and this 2 and this 2 cancel. So we're left with x equals, and 2 over 1, we know this is just 2, right? So this is really 6 times 2, so 6 times 2, 12. So now x is by itself. So now we have x equals 12. Alright, so what do we have to do next? Check. So let's go ahead and check our work here. So what do? We start with our original equation. So there's our original equation. There it is. So we got 1/2 x plus 4 equals 10. So we said instead of writing our x, we're going to go ahead and put a parenthesis. And we go ahead and plug in our answer in that parenthesis, so we got 12. So we got 1/2 of 12, so half of 12, we know 6, and we bring down our 4. So 6 plus 4 is 10, so we have 10 equals 10, so it checks. So I'm going to stop the video right here, and we'll come back, and we'll look at another one in a minute.